Welcome to Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast where we discuss tips, tricks, and current topics related to all things in the blind and partially sighted community. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce the founder of Blind Beginnings and your host, Shawn Marcellet, and whatever co-host is on this week. Now, here's your host, Shawn.
I'm your host, Shawn Marcellet, and this is Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast. And with me today, I have two co-hosts, Clement and Kolby, who are actually both working for Blind Beginnings this summer as program assistants. Welcome, Clement and Kolby.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Today, we're going to be talking about an exciting program that we're offering this summer that Clement and Kolby are involved in as part of their job. And that is our Community Discovery Family Hikes. And we're super excited to be offering these hikes because, well, we haven't seen each other face to face in quite a long time. So I don't know about you guys, but I kind of miss connecting with people.
Definitely.
Yes.
I mean, normally in the summer, we would be doing summer camps, Camp Hornby, our family adventure camp. We usually do a trip to Playland and any other kind of community discovery outings. One year we went to a Coast Guard station and had a tour. We like to do outdoorsy type, active type things. And we haven't really been able to do that for a long time. I'm definitely missing, I don't know, I'm curious, like Clement, what have you missed most not being able to do face-to-face?
Well, I mean, it's like I told you when we were catching up a couple weeks ago, or a couple days ago, actually. I was saying that, it's very weird for me because since the age of, I'd say probably 8, I've been going to camps every summer, usually for at least a week. And then as I got older, it became 2 weeks and sometimes 3. So it's actually really weird not going anywhere this summer and not spending any time outdoors away from the city. Because that's part of my childhood that I kind of got used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I didn't, it's like so many things. You don't really realize what it's like until you can't do it anymore. And then you're like, maybe that was actually something I really enjoyed. That was really important to me.
Yeah,
So.
Totally. How about you, Kolby?
Yeah, I definitely miss the summer camping, Hornby and the family adventure camp. Was something that I always look forward to each summer. Even just volunteering at them was a big part in connecting with families and just getting out in the outdoors, like you said, and doing fun activities together.
Mm-hmm.
I really missed out with that.
Just while we're talking about camp, do you guys have a favorite camp activity that you've done at a Blind Beginnings camp?
I always enjoy helping out in the kitchen because that's one thing I love to do. Cook.
Oh, thank goodness there's people like you, because I don't.
I know. We need people like me to make sure everyone gets fed.
That's right. I am not a fan of cooking, so I very much appreciate those who are. What about you, Clement?
I love cooking in the kitchen as well. It's definitely a highlight, especially cooking in a kitchen that size. It's one thing to cook at home, but it's nice when you get a full size kitchen, like a cafeteria style kitchen or a commercialized one, depending on the campsite we go to every year. I would say my favorites, it's not quite an activity, but I love spending time face to face with parents and families in general. I've always loved seeing especially meeting new kids, meeting new parents. That's one of the things I've always loved about camp, especially as older and started to volunteer more.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely, kind of makes me really thankful that I can do something that wasn't really done when I was young.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to be a role model, right? I should explain to our listeners that at our family adventure camp, the kids have to help prepare the food each day. So there's one communal meal that the kids are in the kitchen helping prep and cook and clean up after the meal. And our volunteer volunteers, including Clement and Kolby, when they volunteered, have had to be in the kitchen with them, sort of showing them how it's done and giving them some tips on how do you peel a carrot if you can't see, or how do you wash the dishes or whatever. So
I'm waiting for the year you let me teach the parents, Shawn.
Well, we actually do an activity with the parents at the beginning while the kids are kind of doing get to know you activities with you guys. The parents are under blindfold and they're also going through and learning to do some things that the kids will be doing.
I know, and I'm waiting for the day when I get to do that.
Oh. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, I'd like to help with that too.
For me, my favorite part of camp is the campfire sing-along, and we have some pretty fabulous sing-alongs because we have Clement, who's an amazing musician who
Flattery will get you everywhere.
I always say to people that I feel like Clement can probably play 100 songs. I don't know. Am I exaggerating?
I think it's a little exaggerated.
I don't know. Like
I would hazard a guess at 50, maybe.
Okay.
Or below that.
He's got a very wide repertoire of music, and he plays by ear, and you just kind of make a request and boom, he's off. It's pretty amazing. And I mean, you're
selling this really hard, Shawn. It's on the record now.
It's true. It's true. But we also have campers who come and bring their instruments and their voices. And so it becomes pretty amazing, actually.
It's lots of fun when it's a song everybody knows for sure and everybody actually gets in on the fun as well.
Yeah. So we can't do camp, but we're doing these hikes. So we're getting outdoors. We're going to be able to connect with families, and we're actually going to be able to connect in quite a few different regions of the province. That's the goal. Why don't we talk about the first hike and how that went? Because you've each led a hike in different communities. Kolby, do you want to talk about yours first?
Sure. So on July 25th, I led a hike in Nelson, and we went to Kokanee Creek Park, which is a provincial park and campsite, and we did one of the trails there, and it was really nice. It was a really nice day out. The trail was pretty flat, and we walked along this trail that had some creeks around it, and you can hear the water running beside you as we were walking. At one point, we walked onto this dock that was kind of over top of the water, and all you could hear was rushing water, and it was super loud. And it was really cool to hear that. In fact, it was so loud that I could barely hear anyone else talking. It was so loud.
Wow.
After we finished that hike, we had a little picnic, and one family that came, they brought some lunch, and I had some snacks as well. And we sat around and just did some networking, I guess. And they were really appreciative being able to get out and have an opportunity to connect with more people that are also blind or visually impaired.
That's awesome. We've never really led an activity in Nelson before, so pretty awesome to be doing that in the Kootenays, right?
Yeah.
How was your first hike, Clement?
Well, the first one I wasn't sure what the reception was going to be like, so I decided to try an easier one. So we went to the Pacific Spirit Regional Park here in Vancouver. It's part of the UBC endowment lands, and it's actually really nice. I didn't know. I've always known Vancouver had a lot of hikes. I didn't realize how many there were I didn't know about until I started researching for this program.
Right.
So part of the fun for me was, discovering trails and walks that I didn't even know about. And it's nice, especially I think now for people who live in the big cities like Vancouver, Calgary, Toronto, whatever, because there's so much of being stuck in one place. It kind of, at least for me, it's kind of starting to get claustrophobic, psychologically. And so it's a really nice opportunity to kind of get out of the city. And, we're talking a lot about physical distancing. It's nice to have space if that's the right way. That's the right word
Mhm.
to use.
Mhm.
So we did like I said, Pacific Spirit Regional Park, which is a pretty easy hike. It was nothing super remarkable in terms of things to see or trails. It was a pretty easy one, just to kind of let everyone acclimate to what the experience is kind of like hiking. We saw lots of wild berries, which were really nice. We didn't pick any, just erring on the side of caution, but they were really cool to see for sure. And we saw a bunch of ferns. Like there was one part of the trail, just a whole bed of them, and we learned from one of our hikers that the spores are actually located under the ferns, like on the bottom, on the underside, and so they kind of they of course they get blown up and carried up in the wind, and that's how ferns land where they land and they grow. But it was really cool because it wound right down to Spanish Banks near UBC, so the trail was pretty. It was a pretty gradual incline, and then there was some wooden steps down, which was a nice kind of change in terrain. We were definitely able to keep a safe physical distance away from each other while still socializing, which was huge because as as nice as Zoom and phone calls and whatnot are, there just isn't anything quite like getting together, even if you have to stay 6 feet apart.
Yeah, I did hear from one of the families that came that their 7-year-old had a blast. So good job on that. So you guys are both traveling next week to lead your hikes. Kolby, where are you going?
So I'm headed to Kelowna, and we're going to be going to Shannon Lake, and it's in West Kelowna, and we're going to be doing a hike around the lake. It's about 2 kilometers. The path is nicely paved, so it's going to be really accessible for anyone with children or youth who need to use a stroller or possibly a wheelchair. We're going to be seeing hopefully turtles and water birds. So
awesome. Yeah, so any family in the Okanagan is welcome to join. And where are you going next week, Clement?
So we are headed to Vancouver Island next week for a little bit of a trip into the unknown, because I've never actually been hiking on Vancouver Island. So this will be a nice treat for me. For this hike, we're going to the Colliery Dam near Nanaimo. And it's a 2-kilometer trail, which I don't know very much about because, like I said, I've never actually been there. So this will be as much of a discovery for me as for our families, which I'm really looking forward to, because I love exploring new places, and I miss going to the island, so I get the best of both worlds. It's a 2-kilometer trail that goes pretty much around, I believe from the description I read, it said it goes around Colliery Dam, and there is a waterfall somewhere on the trail that I heard about. Apparently it's a very popular trail for nature walks and stuff like that. So hopefully, I'm sure there'll be interesting things to see there.
So these are all really family friendly hikes, not super long, not super exerting. The idea is really just to get together and be with people and be in nature, right? Yeah. All this talking about hiking is reminding me of a hike we did at our camp 2 summers ago. We were in Souk on Vancouver Island, and it was an activity for the group, and it was supposed to be an hour. We were going to all set out. It was supposed to be a round trip kind of circular route, and it ended up being much, much longer with much adversity. Do you remember that, Kolby?
Yes.
On the way out, one of the kids got stung by a bee or a wasp, I can't remember. So that was sort of like challenge 1. And then at one point we came up to a suspension bridge, which was kind of cool, but a little bit scary for some of our younger campers. But we told everybody, you're only going to have to do this once because it's a circular route. So let's challenge ourselves, no limits. And everybody made their way across this shaky suspension bridge. And we all did it. We kept on trekking and we kept waiting to find sort of this looping around part. And all of a sudden, we came to a dead end.
A dead end with water.
Yeah. It was like if you wanted to do the route around, you had to take a boat across to the other side of the path or something. It was very bizarre, which of course we didn't have a boat. So we had to turn around and head back. And by this point, it's already been an hour and people are hungry and a little tired and definitely, feeling challenged. And then, of course, we have to face the suspension bridge again.
And I remember once we crossed the bridge on our first way in, there was this huge area that was full of mud and lots of very uneven sticks were piled all throughout it. Do you remember that?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yes.
It was just crazy. It was one challenge after another, but it kind of became like almost the symbol or the highlight of camp. It was like,
I do know it did become the talking point because that was the one year I had to leave, and I remember I had to leave a day early for something, and I remember hearing that story, and I went, I kind of not sure if I left at a good time or if I should have stayed and experienced it, because it was that'll definitely be something to remember for sure, I think.
Well, we ended up talking about how it's kind of symbolic of life, living with a disability, how you'll be challenged at times, but then how overcoming those challenges builds strength and resilience. And I mean, I'm always looking for a way to tie it into turning it into something positive, but it was pretty cool actually in the end. And really, we all made it and we survived, right?
Yes, we did. And nobody got stung again. So
That's
that was
true.
Good.
Yep. The trip back seemed a little more successful than the trip out. And even the suspension bridge the second time around, we were all pros now. So,
yeah.
So, okay. And then, I mean, after next weekend, you guys are traveling to these other Vancouver Island and the Okanagan. And then the week after that, we're doing hikes again. Clement, why don't you go first this time? Where are we going for our last time?
Yeah, for our last hike of the summer in the Lower Mainland, we are going out of Vancouver to Port Moody, and we're going to head to Rocky Point Park and the Shoreline Trail, which, Shawn, you apparently have done before. So why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, it's walking distance from my house, actually. So I'm really excited about this.
That's part of why I picked it.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to make sure you would come for one at least.
Right. Yes. So it's some of the trail is paved. Some of the trail is like boardwalky kind of. It's like a boardwalk above a marsh. There are some stairs, but it's like a very well groomed, really nice trail, and it ends up at Old Orchard Beach.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can, hang out on the beach or in the park and have a picnic.
There are picnic tables. There is a playground, so it is an area where we can kind of relax a little bit more and just talk without having to watch your footwork at the same time. So I'm looking forward to that. And it's not terribly hard of a trail, I don't think.
No, it's not. Actually, part of that trail I run every Sunday morning.
There you go. You're a professional.
It's a wide paved trail, lots of room. It's nice. It's really nice. And then there's lots of tree coverage as well. So you're not like out in the blasting heat. I don't know what the weather's going to be on August 22nd, but if it's hot, we have some protection too. And Kolby, where are you going on August 22nd?
So we're going to be in Creston, which is another city in the Kootenays. And we're going to be going to Creston Wildlife Management Area. Creston has a rich biological ecosystem. So the hike is a loop around one of the areas at the Wildlife Center. The hike is on a boardwalk, and then there's also going to be a bird viewing area as well. This hike is about 2 kilometers. I think there will be lots to see, lots of different animals. There's over 300 species of birds, 57 species of mammals, in 29 species of fish, reptiles, and amphibians.
Wow.
So yeah,
That's a lot of animals wandering around on that hike. I think I'd be afraid. Just kidding. Sounds cool.
Yeah, so I haven't actually been there before, but I think it'll be fun for families to come and just to be able to get out in nature and experience these different animals. Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that one.
I did want to just add that these hikes and all of our community discovery programs are for the whole family. So the visually impaired or blind child with any siblings and parents and sometimes grandparents or even friends or cousins sometimes come along. So it's really just an opportunity to get out and connect with other families and, do something fun and different.
Yeah. And of course, like I think we all understand that there are going to be, there are going to be families who are concerned about following health measures. And I'd just like to emphasize the fact that we are going to be following those. We are following the phase 3 guidelines set out by the British Columbia government, which include things like maintaining 2 meters of physical distance when possible, using masks and or gloves if you need them. Of course, sitting at picnic tables, we'll also be careful to distance ourselves. And for most of our parks, I think, at least for the ones in Lower Mainland, there are public washrooms. But we are encouraging people to bring sanitizer, their own sanitizer if they need it. And of course, for sharing, if we're doing a picnic, it'll be sharing food and snacks within your family bubble only. So we are going to be following all the health measures that have been recommended for public parks. Just something to think about if you are wondering what our standards of procedure are going to look like.
Exactly. Awesome. Before we wrap up, because we still have a bit of time, hiking's awesome, but we were kind of talking about camp at the beginning. Why don't we go back to what is your favorite camp story of all time? Clement.
My favorite camp story. Well, this has nothing. My favorite camp. I have two. The first one is going cave exploring when we were on Vancouver Island on Qualicum Beach.
Oh, yes.
That was a fantastic time. There is nothing like splunking, and I love that word because it's so much fun to say. And I would love to go again. Whenever things open up again, because cave exploring is definitely something that I didn't hear enough about before I actually tried it. Now that I've done it once, I'm very keen to do it again.
Oh, I have to jump in on that because my favorite part of that whole experience was we had climbed down deep into this really, deep part of the cave where apparently it's pitch black. And so the guide told everybody to turn off their headlamps so that we could be in total darkness, which of course for those of us who can't see was really no big deal, but for the siblings and the parents, it was very, I don't know, maybe challenging, I guess would be the word for some of them.
Yeah, I would say so. I think I was definitely kind of not the same as experiencing, what we go through daily, of course, but I think it was definitely shocking for a lot of people because it's not just black, it's not just dark. There's
nothing.
There's nothing.
Wow.
So that's what our tour guide was saying was that, at the point we were in the cave, it was the deepest part of the cave. And so if you were to switch your headlamp off, there wouldn't be any light coming in either. So, whereas, when people think dark, if there's dark, there's usually still at least a little bit of light coming from somewhere, which is why it's dark, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this time was complete, absolute darkness without any light. So
and it was certainly uncomfortable for people, I think, that aren't used to being in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Which is cool. It was kind of cool for the kids that are blind to be with, I don't know, to be the heroes, to not be uncomfortable, right?
It's like a power outage, right? It's It's our favorite time of the week.
Exactly.
And my other camp story, Shawn remembers this very well because it was also at Qualicum Beach, was when I was...
I think I know.
I think I know. I think I know. I think I know.
Was it when you got up on stage with that band?
It was when I got set up by one of our parents to play at a public market.
That was so cool.
That was an experience I definitely won't forget. Whether because it freaked me out or whether because I actually got to play on stage. So
yeah, that was awesome. That was one of
my belt too.
One of my favorites as well. That was a great camp. Ugh. What about you, Kolby? What's your favorite camp story?
Well, it's so hard to choose, but I guess I have two as well. My first one would be at my first camp, volunteering at the family camp in Kelowna. We got to go horseback riding, and I found that really fun and something that isn't really offered a lot of places or times. So for me, that was really fun, and I hope to do that again when more things open and whatnot. My other favorite memory was probably at Camp Hornby, one of the years where one of the games that we played, we had two teams, and one team was all blind or visually impaired, and then the other team, it was sighted people that were blindfolded, and you had to do this like obstacle course.
Yes.
And it was fun because all the kids and the youth who were blind just like zipped right through it, and everyone else was like going so slow and trying to be so careful.
Yes, that was fun. I think so many memories. Well, it just went out of my head. I had two things. Oh, yes, I remember. Okay, I have two as well. So one of them was the very, very first family adventure camp in Squamish. And we actually went rock climbing outdoors. So like on an actual rock.
Yep, on an actual cliff. It wasn't a wall.
It was awesome because I feel like, people talk about going rock climbing and usually it's indoors and you're climbing a wall and it's not actually anything like a rock. But this was like climbing up the side of a rock face, mountain, whatever, which was actually easier, I felt, because you're just looking for the natural places to grab on and put your toes into. Whereas when you're doing wall climbing, you have to follow, you kind of have to hold yourself.
Yeah.
There's almost a route that you're supposed to go with.
Yeah, exactly. So it was.
So, sorry, would you say that was easier?
I thought it was easier. Yeah. I don't know if other people would feel that way, but like you got to shove your toe into the natural crack in the wall.
I would agree with that because I remember that climb and I remember thinking, it's actually a lot easier when the surface is uneven than when it is.
Because even if there's no like dip there, you can still it's rough, so you can sort of like brace yourself against it and pull yourself up. Yeah, it was cool. That was definitely one of them. And I think the other, although it's sort of it's a good memory and a bad memory all at the same time, was also my first time at Camp Hornby when I did Leap of Faith. And so
I remember that story.
So Leap of Faith is this crazy activity where you climb up the side of a telephone pole, basically. And then you stand on top of said telephone pole and you jump off into nothing. Of course, you're wearing a harness, but my hands are sweating as I'm talking about it because it's terrifying.
So can we talk about why it's called the Leap of Faith for a second?
Okay, sure. So I don't actually know.
The reason is because you have to have typically for a camp attraction, some of the listeners may know, there is somebody with a belaying device to make sure you don't fall and to hold on to the other end of your rope. In the case of the Leap of Faith, instead of one person, it's actually three, and it's three people holding the rope that is being ran through a log that's buried in the ground vertically, and up to your harness. So you're actually trusting in your fellow campers to hold you up, which is part of why it's called a leap of faith, because you have to trust that the three people who are on the ground are, one, strong enough to keep you up and not let go of the rope, and two, are actually going to catch you.
Right.
Although I'd be surprised if anybody didn't, right? But,
Yeah.
sorry, carry on, Shawn.
Okay, so I climbed up the it's sort of almost like a ladder, like these, what would you call those? These big
Staples.
like, giant staples that are stapled into the side of the pole. So I got up those, no problem. That part was easy. And then I was bent over at the top. So I had both of my hands on. So let's just explain that the top of this pole is like the diameter of a dinner plate, like your average.
Yeah, it's very small.
It is. It's like, I feel like if you stood up on it, your feet, probably your toes are hanging over the sides of
your toes and your sole, probably.
Yeah, it's not very
not your actual sole. I mean the sole of your foot. Not...
My hands. My hands are seriously sweating right now just talking about this. Oh my gosh. So I had my hands on the top and I had one foot up on the plate at the top of the pole, and the other foot was still like one step below, and I was stuck there for what felt like an hour, but I'm sure it wasn't an hour.
It wasn't an hour, it was only a few minutes.
So I'm stuck there and I'm like trying to psych myself up to like let go with my hands and step up that final step, which means you're not hanging on to anything anymore. You're just standing on top of this pole. And so after a few minutes of being stuck there, I said, I can't do it. I'm going to have to just climb back down. And I had some youth that were holding me or holding the rope down below, who I had known for a real long time. And one of them said, Shawn, no limits. And I was just like, oh man, I have to do this. What kind of example am I if I climb back down? Like, I have to do it. So I stood up and I leapt, and it was okay. And they held me and it was all okay. But that was...
So no limits is the lesson of the
no
story.
limits. But I mean, it was terrifying, but I also was really proud of myself for doing it. It was very scary, but
we're proud of you too, Shawn.
Aw, thanks. I do feel like it is the scary things in life that when you challenge yourself and you do something that scares you, usually, they end up being really positive experiences. So
For sure.
Yeah.
I can echo that so much, because I think a lot of times when you look at something and it seems really uncertain, and it's like when you're about to put your foot on something and it starts shaking, and it's like a suspension bridge, right? And you kind of go, I don't know if I want to do that or not. But then when you actually take a step out and you realize that, I mean, maybe not when you're falling, but you realize how nice of a view it is from that suspension bridge, or you realize how nice it is to know that other people are going to catch you if you happen to start falling. And so that's definitely true, but no limits.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for being with me today, you guys. And hopefully if people are interested in checking out our hikes, we'll have some new families joining us, and our regular families too, that we haven't seen in a few months because of COVID. So definitely, if you want more details about the hikes or you want to register, check out any information on our website, blindbeginnings.ca. This is kind of the last face-to-face program that we have planned through, until the end of the year. So we really do hope that we're going to see some families out there and reconnect, because it's been too long. You've been listening to Limitless, the Blind Beginnings podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Marcellet. Join us next time.
For more information on Blind Beginnings and its mission to inspire and support children and youth who are blind or partially sighted and their families, visit www.blindbeginnings.ca.